It says we're live. Hello, hello. This is a special Facebook Live for us. Normally we're on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock Pacific. This is Wednesday and it is 12:30 Pacific, 1:30 here in Costa Rica, 3:30, no, 2:30 in Chicago, 3:30 in New York, the East Coast, and in Montreal, where our guest is from. And I don't know what time it is in Europe. I don't have that one figured out that quickly, but it's a special Facebook Live. And we're doing a special Facebook Live today because my friend Nick Pineault has put together an outstanding course that I've taken a look at, and it is exceptional. It is to the topic of electromagnetic frequency and when you cross a line of tolerance to pollution and how it affects your body. It is to that topic, that's Nick's area of expertise, as my courses are about gluten and autoimmunity, meaning it's a deep dive in everyday language so that people understand this and they can make sense of all the gobbledygook that we're being told out there. So Nick, welcome. It's good to see you again.
Thank you so much. Likewise, it's a shared sentiment. It's been too long.
Yes, yes, yes. So tell us what the motivation was to do this particular event. Why are you doing this now?
I'm doing this course in collaboration with Brian Hoyer, who maybe some people have seen him on Dr. Mercola or on all the top podcasts. And Brian has such a depth of expertise. It's incredible. You know, I'm someone who has developed a book on the topic of EMFs, so the electromagnetic pollution emitted by cell phones and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and its related health impacts that are unfortunately mostly ignored or underrated. And most people are not aware that these risks are there, or that it's a little bit, it's on their everyday life symptoms. It's having an impact, stress on a cellular level on their entire body. So that was my mission since day one, 5 years ago when I started. And what I lacked is the application of these action steps to reduce electropollution inside the home. And that's where Brian came in, because he's an EMF mitigation specialist. And in the last 4 years alone, he's gone through more than 1,000 EMF surveys in US-based families mostly. So he saw what it takes to take readings professionally in a home and identify what are the worst spots and the worst machines and different gizmos that people have at home that are the biggest culprits when it comes to electromagnetic pollution. And what we did is we sat down for hours. We brainstormed for several months together to come up with how can we make this simple, right? This is exactly what you do for gluten, for autoimmunity, and so many other topics. Because in the end, it's a lot of lingo. It's electromagnetic fields, EMF, electropollution, dirty electricity, and microwave radiation. And it goes on. And all these words are new words for people. And it's very hard to grasp. A lot of people know that EMFs are bad, or they heard it from me and they read it in my book, but they struggle with implementation. Right. So this course, that's why I called it Electropollution Fix. It's a fix for the electropollution inside your home, quite simply.
Well,
and this is the idea behind it.
That's the same line of thinking I used in my first book, The Autoimmune Fix.
Yes, exactly.
And same concept. You know, no fancy names, no like let's capture you with the sophistication of our title. This is Electromagnetic Fix. And yes. I really like that. So I'm going to put myself to the test here to show people, and I'm sure I may be wrong on this, and I know a fair amount about EMFs, but when you talk about your partner Brian's expertise and doing over 1,000 home evaluations and what they found and where the EMFs are the worst, if somebody asked me, I'd say it's the television. And it's the wall on the other side of the television when the television's on. That would be the first place I'd look, outside of the smart box or smart meters outside. But how close am I to being accurate with that?
Well, it could be an issue, but think about the pillow first. And really, we have a system inside the course that's called the 3D system, because we sat down and there are so many things to think about when it comes to electropollution. There are different types of electropollution. One of them that it's not often considered a type of electropollution is that blue light, that artificial light that we're exposed to. So choosing the right bulbs for your lights and your lighting system actually matters a lot. So there's many.
Wait, right there. People will say, I don't have any blue light bulbs in my house.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm talking about.
What do you mean by blue light?
Yes, good point. So it's a part of the spectrum. Each type of lighting to the human eye, you would see it as white, generally speaking. If it's a cool white, very intense, almost bluish, then it contains a lot of blue. If it's something in a hue that is more amber or even red, then generally speaking, you would have a light source with less blue in it. And the problem is, blue is the color that you would perceive the sky if it's completely sunny outside, and that's very stimulating for your body. So that's one type of electropollution, because what we're doing essentially is bringing all these very intense sources of artificial light inside our homes, and it's stimulating us at night. So it's not just the TV, but it's also the light bulbs.
Okay.
So
I'm going to really dive here so that
Yeah.
people get a sense of what this is about, what the EMF Fix is about. So here is the light that I use on a tripod to shine on my face, and I'm going to turn it facing you right now. And there's 3 different levels of light.
Yeah.
So there is this yellowish. To me, right now, it looks kind of yellow.
Yeah.
And then there's this softer white, and then there's, or maybe, yellow. Oh, maybe a little blue. This is a bluer light, and this is bluer, even bluer. So,
Yeah.
which one are you talking about?
I would talk like the most biocompatible version of this, the easiest on the eyes and on your biology, would be the amber one, or the one that is a little bit more amber. That lighting source is surely very powerful, but if you wouldn't initially light yourself all day with that. It's in a professional setting, so I guess there's a trade-off there. But if it's in your living room, what we recommend, especially in the evening, as you try to calm down your body and get it ready for sleep, for deep restorative sleep, you want these amber light bulbs. So
let's back up a little bit more.
Sure.
So what you're saying is that the frequency of color in the light that we're looking at actually affects our brain.
It does.
We've got to go back to the basics. I mean, this is really basic stuff that people need to understand, that it has what can be a profound impact. If your child's got attention deficit and you're doing everything you can to help calm his brain down, the elephant in the room that you may not know about is the lighting, because the light waves go through the eyes back in the brain. They can be stimulatory or calming or neutral. Am I correct on that?
Completely correct. 100%.
So that's the kind of stuff that you're talking about in this event that you're doing?
Exactly. In the course, there's one module where we teach you what types of light bulbs to use, for example, but also what are the impacts. One of the impact is a stimulatory effect, as you alluded to, especially in children, but also in adults. And what happens if you stimulate yourself with this lighting at 10 p.m.? Well, that's why you toss and turn. That's part of the reason that some people have problems going in deep sleep. So it's one type of electropollution to think about.
And people who follow us at theDr.com, they know very well that the only time you heal is when you're sleeping. And that's when you get into a state of parasympathetic dominance. Your heart rate slows down, your breathing relaxes, your muscles are more relaxed, the bowels are not working too much right now, everybody's at peace, your brain, and this is helpful. The lighting at night, when the sun goes down outside, the light waves that are coming into our eyes stimulate the pineal gland in our brain. And the pineal gland, when it gets stimulated, by sunset and the light going down in the sky, the pineal gland starts making melatonin. And what melatonin is, it's the hormone produced in your brain that says, it's time to go to sleep. Okay, liver, because your liver doesn't have eyes to see that the sun's gone down. And so it's melatonin, it's the hormone that says, night, night, liver, night, night, kidneys, time to calm down, nervous system, night, night, brain. That's what melatonin does. And melatonin is active, the pineal gland is activated to produce melatonin by the lighting coming through your eyes. So am I correct here that when we've got these, the bright lights on in the living room, or we've got the television light coming at us at nighttime, and we're watching the late night news, which I recommend no one does ever, because it's just negative news all the time. Yeah. But we're watching all of this, and that lighting's coming in. We aren't making enough melatonin.
Completely correct. But it's actually more deceiving than that when it comes to electropollution, because it's not just the light or the frequencies that you perceive with the eye that can impact your melatonin, but also the invisible spectrum on the electromagnetic spectrum. So if I tell you Wi-Fi, well, you don't think about light, but in fact, the pineal gland in several studies perceives wireless pollution as light, or it has a similar effect on your nervous system, which is why, going back to your question, where should we mitigate first, right? What's the number one place where you should worry and change your habits around electromagnetic pollution? It is right here in my bedroom, and that's also my office, so I have to mitigate it. And this is where you want to do these action steps we teach in the course, starting in the bedroom and in your kid's bedroom, because this is when you're going to have the best bang per buck, because it looks in all scientific studies and the data we have that the biggest detriment of electromagnetic fields is to the sleep quality, and then the downstream effect of that. Poor detox and elevated blood sugar and hormone disruption and all these. But it's really the number one benefit that people get from taking our class. They say, oh, I haven't slept this good in years. I'm sleeping better. I feel refreshed in the morning. So if only that, if only it increases your sleep by 10% in quality, it can have profound effects on your long-term wellness.
That's just marvelous. I think everybody's getting a sense by listening to you why I like you so much. You're a little geeky, like I'm a little geeky, and your heart is so pure, and your area of focus has been EMF for years, and you have a great way of explaining it so that it's understandable. So I stand corrected. The number one toxic EMF producer in our homes is our wireless. And
yes, it would be either wireless or other sources that would be close to the pillow. I would say, protect your pillow. It's almost the lesson of the course, right?
Oh, yeah.
Anything that is very close to the pillow is problematic.
Like the alarm clock.
It could be, exactly. Think about it. Some people near their pillow they not only have one cell phone or two cell phones, if your spouse has one, which is often the case. Most people have one. So there's two phones. Sometimes in their bedroom, they might have a laptop. They might have some wireless Bluetooth systems that track different humidity in your room, because you have these smart devices. Then you have lamps and power bars and extension cords. So all these matter almost equally, but it depends on what is installed in your bedroom. Because I don't know, I haven't gone to your bedroom, Dr. Tom, and you can see mine.
That's not going to happen. I do like you.
Exactly. So it is a course that the goal is not to give you cookie cutter advice on, okay, you should do this or that. It's more like, okay, well, go around your bedroom and find the culprits and then start to remove them or reduce their impacts. And then you're going to have the benefits, right? It's like an autoimmune protocol needs to be designed with your food intolerances in mind and not someone else's. So your neighbor might have dramatic difference in how much they are exposed from their own environment. So it's really something that needs to be customized for each house in a different manner.
Right, it's personalized. That's
Yes.
really great. So, Nick, how does in my book, You Can Fix Your Brain, I talk about for any health condition. I mean, if somebody's going to buy my book, it's because they've got a health condition they want to address. I talk that there are 4 categories that we have to look at for any health condition as where the triggers may be coming from. The first one is structure. That's because I was trained initially as a chiropractor, and I've seen so many miracles over the years that would drop your jaw just by working on structure. But that's also the home of massage and exercise and orthopedics and pillows, structure.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is the biochemistry, and so many of us exclusively focus in the biochemistry of what we eat and drink. Then there's the emotional or spiritual, and that can be just as important in causing problems as any other. And then there's the EMF, electromagnetic frequency. And it is just as potent a trigger for dysfunction in the body as is biochemistry, as is structure, as is emotional, spiritual. EMF can be the primary culprit causing your continuing diabetes, even when you're trying to do it right. That may be the culprit. So this topic is critically important. This class, I believe, is critically important for people. My question is, how does someone know if EMFs are something that they should dive into? What might be some of the biomarkers or the indicators that, you know, this makes sense to me? This may be what I haven't yet gotten a handle on.
It is a difficult question. And the reality is that the symptoms can impact any body part, and the
Right.
symptoms can mimic other conditions. Some people have general fatigue, sleep disturbance, hormonal disruption, or they even have some people that have more acute impacts because some of us are predisposed to have a certain sensitivity or more acute reactions to certain sources of electropollution, such as a cell phone or Wi-Fi router. And these people can have heart palpitations, for example, or even tinnitus or migraine headaches. You know, I was talking with 2 doctors of chiropractic in a podcast yesterday, and one of them said, Nick, after your talk in Las Vegas at a professional event for health practitioners, he saw a patient, a young girl, a 7-year-old, who suffered from debilitating migraines. And that's an example of very acute exposure, because after my talk, what he did is sat down with the parent and said, you know what, your child's been put on medication. It doesn't really help. We don't know what else to do. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to turn off the Wi-Fi, and you're going to remove the wireless devices from that kid's bedroom. It turned out that the Wi-Fi router, unfortunately, had been installed in a few feet from the kid's pillow in the same room. And that's a big mistake, but that's almost an honest mistake, because IT people are not aware of these things. So they install it wherever is the most convenient. It happened, it was in the kid's closet. Go figure. So what happened is 2 days later, the chiropractor gets a call. Oh my God, my daughter, dark circles are starting to disappear, and she's starting to feel completely different. 7 days later, no headaches anymore. And it had been going almost since her birth. And she was so debilitated that she almost had nausea attacks and vomited out of migraine headaches. So that's an extreme example, but it shows you that certain people, it's akin to someone eating bread every 3 hours when you're not only gluten intolerant, but straight up extreme celiac disease. You would be sick like a dog all the time and almost bedridden, right? And some people are. So that's the problem, is that there might be a large percentage of the population who is not aware that they're currently impacted, and that they think their baseline is normal, right, of energy and feeling refreshed in the morning, or maybe deep sleep levels. And when they start removing these sources using the course, and they learn about just a few tricks, I can share one with you. Turn off the cell phone at night or put it on airplane mode. Another thing you could do is turn off the Wi-Fi. You just unplug that machine and in the morning plug it back in. Just these 2 steps. We're not talking about extreme measures, buying gadgets, anything like that. A lot of people report better sleep right there. And I haven't talked about removing the cell phone towers, which is pretty much impossible to do, right? That environmental exposure. I haven't talked about talking to your neighbors so that they turn off their Wi-Fi. So it's your own machines that make oftentimes the biggest difference because they are closer to your body. So their intensity is more intense than maybe your seventh neighbor that you can see on your list of Wi-Fi. Sure, you're exposed by them, but it's a minute exposure compared to your own gizmos.
Yeah.
So it's by removal of the offending agent that you might be able to perceive, oh, wow, I used to be impacted by all these stressful exposures.
We've got some questions that have come in, so I'm going to run to a few questions.
Sure.
Missy asks, what about ultraviolet lights on our HVAC systems for disinfecting?
Yeah, well, if it's I have I have a air filter EnviroCleanse that I purchased a few weeks ago. It has UV light bulbs in there, but if you're not using it for general lighting, I wouldn't worry about it. It all depends on what light bulbs are you exposed to for the longest period in your day, and also especially the ones where you're spending relaxing time at night. And that's the main pillar of our course is focusing on the bedroom and then also your evening. So if you spend your evening in the living room, you might want to change the bulbs there for amber ones. And if you spend the evening in your bedroom, you might do the same there. But other lighting around your home, it's not that much of a deal. If these are daytime exposure, your body will cope with them way better.
Great. Jessica says, no wonder kids struggle at school. Yes, Jessica, that's true. Vicky says, Carolyn East, don't know what that means. Deborah says, shungite, I have heard is good for EMF protection. Shungite.
Yeah, there's something to these different. Shungite is a special type of rock that has special magnetic properties. Have been identified as a potential agent to aid even in nuclear radiation. A lot of Russian studies on it. That being said, the problem with these, let's say, personal protection devices. Some people wear shungite on their person. They have a pendant or even install it on different machines. These are things that might help you cope better with the stress, but it shouldn't be your main means of protection, right? So removal of the agent is number one. Reduction in time of use. So if you're exposed to Wi-Fi 16 hours a day instead of 24 because you've reduced your Wi-Fi exposure at night, you've cut it down to 0, that's great. And then if you add these different modalities that might help you feel less stress, well, that's good, but it doesn't replace filtering out that agent, right?
That makes sense. Thank you for that. And to the air filtration systems, that was a really good question. And Marzi and I, as soon as we got here, I brought with us an air doctor. That's the unit that we'll put a link in here for the air doctor. When I did my research, it was rated #1 of the top 10. But it does have that same UV lighting in it, which is a great antibacterial. And it addresses not only the pollutants in the air, but by having this, a little bit of the electromagnetic scale of filtering out and taking care of pathogens. So I think I don't have any problem with the idea of using that kind of lighting in an air filtration system. It's not illuminating the room.
Exactly.
So it's not going through our eyes or through the lids of our eyes while we're sleeping. And the air doctor actually has a nighttime switch on, so all lights turn off while it's
Oh, that's
running
good.
in the
Very
room.
good.
So, but those are great questions. If you have any other questions, folks, you can bring them in. Nick, your course sounds to be like bare bones, boots on the ground. Here's the basics that really work well. There's a lot more advanced stuff you guys can learn later on if you want to, but this is the 101 level and maybe the 201 level that you have to start with when you're trying to protect yourself from electromagnetic pollution.
Exactly. We've stripped it down to the bare minimum. And I had produced a professional level course for health practitioners, and I could geek out all day, and practitioners ask me for more, right? More pathways and more science and more scientific studies. This course is the opposite. It contains the bare minimum of science on the different types of electropollution, because of course people want to feel good knowing they're doing something heavily rooted in independent science. It's not something we came up with one day. It's based on the work of the hundreds of scientists that are sounding the alarm on that topic of electropollution, that are not really getting heard the way they should be by health agencies. And big wireless is heavily skewing the science at the moment, and things are evolving surely, but a bit slowly for my liking. But we're gonna get there. It's for people who want preventative medicine. You want to reduce your exposure now because you want to feel the benefits now. You want to feel good inside your home, and it's a way to minimize that agent in the rooms of your home, where it's going to make the biggest difference. And what I like about our approach, is that it's purely based, at least the main recommendations are completely free and are habit based. And I know you're big on this too. We shouldn't just push people to buy supplements or gadgets, or the magic pill approach. Our It's the opposite. If you turn off your Wi-Fi at night, well, it doesn't cost you a dime, takes 30 seconds. If you want to turn it off automatically, you can purchase a outlet timer, such as a Christmas light timer thingy you can use, and it costs $10. But most solutions are very, very affordable. And our goal was to make this course, once you're inside the course, you know what to do, and also what not to do, because a lot of people struggle with EMFs. They purchase meters, they purchase the Shungite and other personal protection devices, but they're a bit lost about how do these things all fit together. So they're kind of watching one YouTube video and watching a podcast, and then they see a conference, and they feel very anxious about the topic because they don't feel like they have a good grasp on it. On the diet side, it's hard already to really customize your diet and learn how to cook and how to eat properly for your body, and be in harmony with that. When it comes to EMFs, it's even more confusing because of all the information out there that is contradicting itself, all the products, and really not a lot of people online. It's one of the first courses like these that brings it all together in a very, very simple manner, that's step by step.
That's just marvelous. Gerta has a really great question. Thoughts about Schumann resonance for protection? So first, can you tell us what Schumann resonance is? What's the Schumann wave? And then about Schumann resonance for protection.
Yeah, Schumann resonance is the resonant frequency that is naturally present or emitted by the Earth. There's multiple different types of frequencies and exposures you can get from the Earth directly, and we could put these in the category of good EMFs, right? There's the natural EMFs. We've always been exposed to the Earth's natural magnetism, and also to that connection that is a little bit different from the Schumann resonance is at 7.83 hertz. And that's just the frequency it runs at. And it turns out that that's also a frequency specific to the brain. So, and that our brain is entrained by the planet Earth, which is extremely profound. Our biology was really evolved with the planet and we're addicted to being in a natural environment in some sense. We function better when we have natural frequencies, and the sunshine is also part of that. So all this together.
Can you talk about
Sure.
the story of the Russian cosmonauts and Schumann resonance. Do you know that story?
Yes, there's set of studies where in Russian cosmonauts, and I think there's several other studies that have been done in people that are put. I don't know if it's automatically underground, but in shielded rooms, but completely shielded from the Schumann resonance, which is very difficult to do because at this frequency of 7 hertz, you need very special shielding to achieve that. Like even the average shielding job would not be able to block these waves out, but they were completely isolated from all natural frequencies and probably artificial ones to some degree. And rapidly people deteriorated and had different issues going on. And it's not only the circadian rhythm where the body doesn't really know when to sleep, and the hormonal cycle is completely disrupted, but it's also psychological issues and really feeling completely off. So it was an experience to show that when you go in space and you get outside the planet, then the body doesn't know exactly where you are, because normally speaking, we shouldn't survive in space. We're doing marvels of technology, but there's a cost associated to being outside the planet. And one of the reasons is the lack of gravity. One of the reasons is also the lack of the right frequencies. And astronauts and NASA and other space organizations have been also playing with different frequency generators that could be beneficial to the human body, like pulsed electromagnetic fields that could try to imitate these natural frequencies in our environment, and maybe also light-based therapy, whether it's the very intense white bluish light therapy that people use in the winter when it's very cold in Montreal and you feel kind of down. You have that seasonal affective disorder, that's sad, and you feel sad, right? And you feel a bit depressed, and you shine these lights in your eyes, and you feel great, and on your face. So there's something to be said for these studies that have really confirmed that we have a strong connection to the planet Earth, and that part of our course is also telling people, you should avoid as much as you can reasonably the artificial frequencies, but also bathe yourself in natural ones, right?
Yeah.
Spend time in nature, barefoot in the walk on the beach. And I'm sure in Costa Rica, you have the chance to see amazing nature. And that's important to stress, that even if you're in a city, do your best to spend time outside in the sunshine and get your feet, go in a park, get in the grass, remove those shoes, and get connected to the planet, because these things will also bring your body into a little bit more harmony.
7.83 megahertz, the Schumann wave, surrounds the planet. It's like a force field around the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And humans live on the planet. So our entire existence is based on being in balance with that 7.83 megahertz, because it's affecting our brains. When you're in parasympathetic dominance, deep sleep, relaxed state, maybe after prayer or meditation, you're at 7.83. That's where the brain waves are calm and peaceful. So when you get out of 7.83 wavelengths in your environment, like when you're in space, the Russian cosmonauts became blithering. They would talk on the radio and they didn't make any sense. In ground control, whatever their Houston is in Russia, I don't know, they said, we got a problem. We got a real problem here.
Yeah.
And they tried to talk to the cosmonauts in a way to guide them back into thinking logically. And when they got back down on Earth, they figured out there's no Schumann waves out there in space. And so when they put a Schumann wave generator in the spacecraft, they never had that problem again. So Schumann waves are really important, and it's a great question. But to the question, well, what if I get a Schumann wave generator in my house? The first step, I believe, and I think what Nick's course is teaching us, is get the negative generators out. Get the generators out producing negative EMFs. Get them out of there. And if you want to bring something in to protect you, that's great. but you don't leave your cell phone next to your bed at night or leave the Wi-Fi on. Well, I got a Schumann generator. I'm fine now.
Exactly.
Like that,
Yes.
right? Just
Yes.
don't think like that.
Exactly. It's akin, some people are, well, I'm guilty of that sometimes. We're all looking for magic pills. It's a little bit tempting to see, maybe you see a product on the internet and it promises you to protect you from EMFs. And it's exciting because you say, well, I'm going to have peace of mind now. The reality is that you gotta get rid or replace or reduce the impact of the different machines you have installed in your house. And it is fairly easy to do once you learn how. And then if you want to add the nice frequencies on top of it, by all means do it. It's akin to filtering out your tap water or maybe eating organic to not get that toxic exposure as much from pesticides and herbicides and fungicides that's on there. And then saying, okay, now I eat a little bit healthier. And on top of that, I'm going to add antioxidant supplements, right? It's the same idea.
Good point. Good point. Marjorie says, how far from my head should I keep my cell phone at night? Across the room? And Marjorie, the first thing I'd like to start with that question and let Nick expand on it. If you do, on your phone, on my phone, if there's no internet around, but I've got Wi-Fi and Marzi wants to use Wi-Fi, I will share with her. I forget what it's called, hotspot. I'll make my phone a hotspot, right? So I turn it on, Marzi's phone recognizes it, she clicks on it, and then she can connect to the internet, right? So that means that the waves, the electromagnetic waves being produced by the cell phone are going as far as over to Marzi, at least that far. So if I have my phone in one room and Marzi's in another room and she taps to my hotspot, that's how far the waves from my phone are reaching. So what's a safe distance is a really difficult question to answer. My opinion is turn the phones on flight mode at night. As Nick said at the beginning of this, turn the phones on flight mode, turn the Wi-Fi off. We do that every night here. Sometimes I forget on the phone and I get in bed and Marzi gets up, walks around to my side of the bed and undoes puts my phone on flight mode. But every night, my job is to turn off the Wi-Fi. And in the morning, when I wake up, start the water for coffee. My job is to turn the Wi-Fi on, right? So, but every night, as Nick said, it's even a better idea to put a Christmas light timer that plugs into the wall, and then you plug your Wi-Fi into the timer so that it turns off automatically at a certain time, if you want to do it that way. So Nick, how would you answer the question about how far away should my phone be from my bed?
What you said was very accurate. Generally speaking, if let's say in the hypothetical situation, maybe you're a concerned parent, you have teenagers and they start going out at night, it's 11 p.m. and then you say, well, I know, Nick, the EMF guy told me to turn off my phone, but there's no way I'm going to do that because I expect a call. Maybe they're going to call me for a lift. And that's okay. Put it in another room or as far away as possible. The good news with EMFs is that the intensity will drop in an exponential manner as you create distance. So imagine this, you have 100% level radiation at the ear, right next to your head. And if you create 2 feet of distance, you already have a drop of 80% in intensity. So that's good news. It means that every inch of extra distance you can create between your pillow and the phone actually matters. And yes, exactly what you said, flight mode is preferred or turning it off completely. But if you expect a call, put the ringer on maximum, put it in another room, maybe charging in the corridor. That way, when it rings, you're gonna no problem with it. And people ask me sometimes, can I use my phone as an alarm clock if it's on flight mode? And the answer is yes. Almost all applications that are kind of passive, like an alarm clock, countdown timer, calculator, all these apps are still available even when you're not actively connecting to the internet. So you can wake up just fine. No, there's no worry about that.
So in terms of What might you look for to give you a suggestion if EMFs are a sizable trigger in the inflammation in your body, causing whatever symptom patterns you may have? I'm going to tell the story of how I first got introduced to EMFs. 1978, my very first week in my medical education, very first week, I saw a sign in the hall one day that said Dr. Sheldon Deal, Mr. Arizona, was going to come on campus and be talking in a couple of days. Mr. Arizona, okay, the guy's a bodybuilder. He's going to be a healthy guy. I thought I'd like to hear what he has to say. So I went to listen to him. He had a color television on a stand up front. Color televisions were pretty new in 1978. They weren't as refined as they are now. And he had it turned on, but the volume off. He walked over to a desk and opened his briefcase, took out a bar magnet the size of a cell phone. And he held the bar magnet up like this, like a policeman holds a flashlight. He held it up like this, and he walked over to the television. The picture turned upside down. He walked away and it turned right side up. He walked towards it, went upside down. He walked away, went right side up. And he said, that's what electromagnetic pollution does to your brain. And it's called neurological switching. And it's people who say right when they mean left. They write the number 3 backwards. They write E before I, I before E except after C, but they write words incorrectly and they know the word very well, but they're, I'm just not thinking. They write it wrong. Their sense of direction is a little bit off. That's a suggestion of what's called neurological switching, that the system is just goofy, kind of like the Russian astronauts in space. They were a little goofy, but to an extreme. And most of us have some incidents, or we know people that just seem a little bit off. Nice people, really nice, but they're just not thinking with all 8 cylinders, it seems sometimes. That may be a strong suggestion of electromagnetic pollution, is those types of symptoms. Nick, are there any others that you've seen over the years? I know that any symptom may be caused by this. That's the whole concept of the 4 pillars that I talk about: structure, biomechanics, biochemical, emotional, spiritual, and electromagnetic. So any symptom can be caused by that. But any common things that you've seen that might be suggestive?
Well, very common things are people who get very intense inflammation in a specific area of their body. And you would be surprised. Some people work on their computer with Wi-Fi, and then they start having carpal tunnel syndrome, or so they think. They don't know it's related to the fact that they're on a laptop and inches away from a Wi-Fi antenna, because your laptop emits to the router and the router emits to the laptop. So it means that if the router is at the other side of the home, you're way closer to your computer than you are from your router. So in fact, your computer is the biggest source of exposure. So some people might get chest pain or heart palpitation. Dr. Sinatra, who's a very well-known heart doctor, has been talking about this publicly. And I was shocked, because not a lot of doctors are aware of the problem or even willing to talk about it, because it's still unrecognized or underappreciated, and even a little bit polarizing. Some people say, no, there's no issue, or you're coming up with these stories. But Steven Sinatra said, I have a lot of patients who were having heart palpitations, and it turns out they're always putting their phone right next to the heart. Well, if you wear a pacemaker, so a heart replacement machine, yeah, exactly, in the shirt pocket. If you have a pacemaker, manufacturers know very well that cell phones should not be placed right next to it. If you have a natural pacemaker that's called a human heart, no one thinks it's a problem, right? Even though your heart is bioelectrical, right? We know how to revive a heart. You charge it, right? There's an electrical impulse, and your brain also is running on electricity. And it's simply bizarre. I think there's a big lack, a big misunderstanding in medical science where we're so disconnected from the fact that the body is not only biology, but also electricity or electromagnetics. And when we're going to bridge that gap, people are going to find it obvious that there's interference between the Wi-Fi and a brain. There's interference between a cell phone and then cell-to-cell communication that is done through photonic light, and also other communications in that's at multiple tens of gigahertz. There's many studies about the different uses of electricity in the human body, and whether it's electroacupuncture or different sciences that merge to say, oh, for sure, the human body has electricity in it. But somehow engineers that come up with these machines don't think about these interactions, and they think they're impossible, which is very myopic of them. But of course, there's interactions. So the truth is, it could impact any body system, and that by removal of the agent is often when people identify that, oh my God, I feel like day and night in the best situations. Some people feel mildly more energetic, and some other people might not feel anything, but you know you're doing something great. And the same could be said about filtering out your tap water. I filter out my tap water. I could not say that I've seen a difference personally day and night, right? But I still do it as a preventative measure to stay healthy. And electromagnetic pollution removal and reduction through the course is something in that same category. It is preventative medicine that you can learn now and apply for the rest of your life.
Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. For everyone here, the link is here below. Please click on the link, register for his event so that you can learn more about this class and make a choice to do the class. I can promise you that you will get so much benefit of it. You'll know for the next number of years of your life how to protect yourself. And there will be new information coming further on down the road that will take us to the next level. But this is boots on the ground, 101, 201 type of things that we just don't know. And we need to know these very basics that are critically important to protect the health of ourselves and our family. Nick, thank you again so much. Look forward to seeing you on down the road.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Thank you.